In my previous videos, we talk about how CVs are positioning in the UK. So today we are going to talk about common CV mistakes we make in the UK, especially as a migrant, including myself. I made these mistakes during early years of my career in the UK, and I believe, and I've seen most of the migrants making the same mistake like I did. Many migrants I speak, they said the same thing. I do have experience, I do have qualifications, but I do not get invitation for the interviews or my CV is not get selected. So it's not about your ability, it's not about your capability. It's actually small mistakes you are making at the stage of CV preparation causing for all of these issues. Mainly these mistakes are making recruiters feel uncertain. So when recruiters feel uncertain, they tend to move towards to more stable CVs or the CVs which are a bit more certain to them. These mistakes are very common among migrants simply because CV preparation culture is different from UK and other regions in the world. Especially when it's come to the Africa, Asia, and Middle East sector, CV preparation culture is way different than the UK CV preparation method, or the expectation from the CV is very different. Today, I'm going to walk you through about most common CV mistakes made by the migrants when they are preparing CV to the UK job market. The biggest mistake is even though you have required qualifications, you don't make it easy to find, or you tend to keep it in between your work experience or somewhere else that harder to find. So recruiters will not spend longer time in your CV unless otherwise it's clearly visible to them. So recruiters quickly scan your CV. First, they are looking at relevant degrees or relevant education qualification, professional qualifications required, licenses, and special thing is right to work in the UK. If these areas not easy to find, or there's a high chance that recruiter might miss these things. In that case, make sure to keep those qualifications and specific areas are visible to recruiter or else easy to spot. This happens sometimes when you have required qualifications as well. For an example, if particular job role required NVQ level 5 qualification, you need to make sure that you clearly state that qualifications available with you. At the same time, somewhere easy to find. If the recruiter has to search for it, your CV might be rejected. There's a high chance to reject your CV. This is not about intelligence or experience. It's more about making it visible, or the making required thing visible for the recruiter, or easy to navigate through your CV. The other important point is we tend to use a lot of job titles that we used to have back in our own countries. Sometimes these designations are not familiar to UK recruiters. Even though the same titles are available in the UK, those titles might represent something else than it represents in your country. I spoke about these points in my couple of previous videos as well, but to explain it further, let's say if you have experience as an administrative executive, or else team lead, or else head of some sort of a position, or else let's say it goes as general manager or something like that. So sometimes title doesn't explain it very well. Because of that, you need to make sure that you explain it properly. These titles can mean different in various countries. If the recruiter cannot understand the level of responsibility, there's a high chance your CV get rejected. Therefore, sometimes small adjustments or clarification can make a huge difference. Therefore, do not solely rely on the titles of the job role that you've held previously. The other biggest mistake is describing responsibilities rather than achievements. Yes, responsibility matters, but achievements matters more. So many migrants tend to highlight responsibilities on certain sector of working, or responsibilities of handling certain job tasks and everything, but they fail to highlight what kind of achievements they've made, what kind of change they bring to the organization, and what are the impact because of their workload that they have carried out in those organizations. The goal is not to exaggerate, but to how your work impact and how your work make the difference in your previous organizations. The other biggest mistake is migrants usually make is they are developing CV around themselves, not about the job role. Because of that, they tend to explain more and more about their previous roles, or sometimes it's more about the role that they have most enjoyed during their career, which is not the best practice in the UK. So sometimes this can be your first role, or else a role that you have held a long time ago, at least more than 5 years ago, or else more than five roles before. I would say rather than the years, it's more than five roles before, which is not that relevant. So what you need to make sure is highlight what you've done in your recent role very well and explain it very well, and try to showcase that your achievements in those roles, and everything else you can edit separately, especially like in a special achievements and everything in those roles, rather than adding everything that you've carried out in those roles. So in the UK, it's more about your achievement in relevant roles and the recent roles. A CV is more about to recruiter to understand that where you are right now in your career, where you are professionally, and what kind of a development, what kind of a changes that you bring uh, while you are growing in your career. It's not always about where you started. The other biggest mistakes we as migrants tend to make is sending the same CV again and again. I've talked about this point as well in my previous videos. The reason to this as well, the frustration of applying to so many jobs and doing it over and over again is kind of not an easy task, especially when you're juggling with some other workload and your family life and everything. I can understand the situation because I used to do the same. I used to send the same CV again and again into various roles until I realized that it's not always about what I have done previously. It's more about what I can do in my new role or the role that I'm expecting to work on. So because of that, I have to change my CV based on the role, based on the requirements that they are looking for, based on the minimum qualifications that they are looking for. And I need to highlight those important areas in my CV rather than sending a generic CV to all of these positions. When your CV is clearly aligned with the job role, it's easy for recruiter to review your CV and shortlist you as a candidate. The other biggest mistakes we tend to make as a migrants is over-explaining rather than being clear. Yes, you need to explain what you've done and what's your achievements and everything, but you shouldn't have to over-explain it. You need to be very clear and cautious when you are doing this. So, as I said before, you shouldn't have to explain more than five roles or anything beyond that. And when you are doing that as well, you just need to highlight your key achievement in those roles. That's it, nothing more than that. The other biggest thing is avoid long paragraph in your CV. Rather than that, try to add your achievements and the responsibilities and the improvements and the problem solved during your during the time that you've held that post. You don't have to give detailed explanation about the organization, at the same time too much about the challenges that you faced. CV works best when it's easy to scan and understand, because you need to realize that recruiters often review many CVs during the recruitment period, so you need to make it easier for them rather than make their life difficult. The other biggest mistakes we migrants tend to make is no linkage or the familiarity with the UK work environment and the UK systems. So this doesn't mean you have to work in the UK before applying for any of those jobs. Rather than that, it's more about that you have to showcase that you understand the UK system, UK culture, and the expectation of UK workplaces, especially with UK regulations, UK working with the UK stakeholders. Even small signaling would enough, but you need to make sure that you signal and you will make sure that the hiring manager or the recruiter can see these signalings properly. As I said at the beginning, it's not about the capability, it's more about that your CV creates uncertainty. So the recruiter or the hiring manager does not want to interview someone they are uncertain about. Rather than that, they will move to someone they're certain about with the experience and exposure, and who can work with the UK culture, who understand the UK systems, and all of those things. So try to make sure that when you are developing your CV, to avoid these uncertainties. If you're a migrant professional in the UK and your CV is not getting responses, try to think about these aspects as well. And I'm sure once you change your CV according to these guidelines, you'll be able to get some opportunities, and you'll be able to see the differences in shortlisting process, and you'll be seeing some opportunities coming into your way with this. I'm going to continue this series with more information. Stay tuned, join with us, and if you are still not subscribed to us, so subscribe our channel. And I'm uploading videos on every week, especially on Mondays. I'm uploading these videos, so stay tuned. Thank you.